On today's Locked On Texans podcast, finally, Stefon Diggs, Houston Texans media had a chance to see him at practice. Cody has a nice take on that and just the overall best highlights from OTAs.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, everybody, to this Friday's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day-ish. This is the last week we will be recording 5 days a week, having 5 shows for about a month and a half. We are finally going into the off season, but y'all don't care about that. Maybe you do. You guys are here to talk Texans, and thank you to all of our first-time listeners and viewers for checking us out. Please subscribe, like, and comment to the Locked On Texans podcast on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. Thank you to all of our returning listeners and viewers coming back, supporting the Locked On Texans podcast. I'm your Texans football analyst, John, some sports guy Hickman. On the other side of the screen, Texans credential media member, the 6th member of the Jackson family, Cody Davis. We're going to have fun today hearing from Stefon Diggs. I do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Cody, Stefon Diggs was in action. Go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, we finally had an opportunity to see Stefon Diggs. Because as you guys know, on yesterday, media was out there at OTAs, and it also marked the first time that we had an opportunity to officially see Mr. Stefon Diggs in action with the Houston Texans. And John, this is going to be more so a reaction that a lot of us had because we know about the greatness of Stefon Diggs. We know what his importance to this organization, to this offense is going to be. However, I just want to say, man, watching him take the field, run on the field alongside Nico, Tank, and everybody else, man, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I truly believe by the end of the regular season, we're going to be looking at the best offensive team in the NFL. And I understand, once again, that is a very early statement to say, especially knowing that we only saw them go through 7-on-7 non-contact play inside of the Houston Methodist Training Facility. But John, listeners and viewers, we all, reporters, fans, football fans, your average fans, we have all tried to break down the importance of Stefon Diggs and what he's going to do for this offense. But it wasn't until you saw him take the field, literally, there was a moment where he is taking the field alongside C.J. Stroud under center, with Joe Mixon and Dalton Schultz in the offensive backfield, and the 4 wide receivers that you had lining up with Diggs was Nico, Tank, and Robert Woods. I don't until you see it for yourself, that's when you're like, man, this is about to be something special. CJ Stroud did have an opportunity to connect with Stefon on 2 occasions. And John, listeners and viewers, the way that young man can get open, Lord have mercy. That's all I got to say. The way he can run his routes, the way he can get in and out of his breaks, and he kept getting open on dig routes, no pun intended, but it's just like this offense. Look, before I even go any further, I just want you guys just to listen to what offensive coordinator Bobby Slow had to say about working so far with Stefon Diggs.
He's been great to work with. You know, his big thing right now, kind of like we already talked about with some other guys, is verbiage, just picking up verbiage. It's a little different than when he was in Buffalo. but there's nothing that he hasn't seen or done before. And then the football player, man, is just he's so competitive, and I mean it shows on tape. He is a lot like our quarterback in that he will do absolutely anything necessary to win the game. Whether he doesn't have the ball, he has the ball in his hands. At all times, he's in between the white lines. He's doing everything he can to win. Good route runner. I mean, he's got all the receiver traits you could ask for. But what jumps out to me and what fits with us and what we're always engaged with is how competitive guys are, how tough they are, and the style of play they have.
I had an opportunity to go back and take a look at which team had the quote-unquote best statistical offense during the regular season in 2023, and it was Miami. They averaged a total yardage of 401, passing 265, and they had an opportunity to score an average of 29, close to 30 points per game. But that's with Tua, Waddle, who just got paid, Tyreek Hill, and this is no disrespect to any of those guys in Miami. I actually like that team. But when I compare what they was working with last year and even the improvements that they made, and I look at what the Houston Texans have done, and I'm not about to make no argument or anything, but John, I truly believe that the Houston Texans have better weapons and they damn sure have the better quarterback. But this is what the Houston Texans did in 2023 with a rookie quarterback, rookie offensive coordinator, and with players going in and outside of the lineup without a nuclear weapon like Stefon did. Last year alone, this is how close the Houston Texans came. A total average yards of 366.2, passing 245, and they scored an average of 22.2 points per game. So I look at that from a standpoint, knowing that one, everybody is back healthy, and of course, knock on wood that they stay healthy, but knowing that they have added by far a top 10 receiver to what they did last year, especially considering that this team is that the players individually are going to get better. This offense is going to be the best offensive team in the league this year, plain and simple.
Passion, drive, patience. The winning formula for championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, or all three, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit the first time, every time, or your money back. eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP of the road and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guarantee Fit only to U.S. customers.
Joe, I know it's still pretty early, but what are some of your first impressions have you noticed working with Dameon Pierce so far?
Yeah, Damien's a hard worker too, and the thing that I love about Damien is, he keep me working hard too as well. I mean, I always had a great work ethic, but the way he works, it's like, okay, I gotta keep rolling too. And I think it's a great thing for both of us and also the other running backs in the room, because we all feed off of each other. We all bring certain things to the table, but he definitely works hard, and I love his work ethic.
That was Joe Mixon talking about how much Dameon Pierce is pushing him so far. I had an opportunity to speak to him after OTA practice on yesterday. And, it's good to see that even though Dameon Pierce is still a young player in this league, that he is pushing a veteran like Joe Mixon.
I want to talk about some of the highlights from OTAs. Now, Cody, correct me if I'm wrong, but Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. was causing some trouble. I don't know it's the T-shirt Olympics. I know it ain't pads. I know it's a easier day than what a normal practice would look like. But correct me if I'm wrong, man. Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson out there causing problems. What's going on?
Yeah, of course. And look, I do want to say, Laramie Tunsil and Titus Howard were not there. And I want to say it was Danielle Hunter who was causing the most disruption. However, he was also going up against Blake Fisher. And for those of you who are
Good for
hoping,
Blake.
look, it's good for Blake, but at the same time, I'm standing there thinking to myself, man, if Blake is having trouble with Danielle Hunter, and I understand that Danielle Hunter is one of the best pass rushers in the league, but I'm looking at this from a standpoint, this is non-contact. They're not really going 100%, and he's already having trouble with Danielle Hunter. Then I think Titus Howard's job is especially going to be safer. But since we're talking about the offensive line, I do want to say I did have an opportunity to get a really good look. It was one snap at Kenyon Green, and he was holding his own against Solomon Byrd. I believe that's he was going up against, man. So he looked really good. But other highlights from OTAs that I had an opportunity to see, Jared Wayne and Cade Stover, they are once again making a name for themselves, especially Jared Wayne, who had an opportunity to catch a pass from Davis Mills in double coverage. One of the best passes that I saw on yesterday. Another great pass that I saw, Steven Sims was getting involved in the passing game as well, showcasing that he is just not a kick returner. And I also want to mention John Mechie did have an opportunity to go out there and record two passes himself. This was all doing 7-on-7 plays, but John, once again, man, I just definitely wanted to go back and highlight Jared Wayne and Cade Stover because, like I mentioned, man, this is the second week in a row that both of those guys are not only are they creating a name for themselves, but they are showcasing why training camp is going to be very interesting because, like I said before, with the wide receiving core, you already know who your top 3, top 4 is going to be. But outside of that who's going to add in for depth purposes? And Jared Wayne is already making that very competitive as well. Even when you take a look at the tight end core, I think the only person job that is safe is Dalton Schultz. However, I think tight end number 2 is going to be Brevin Jordan. However, Cade Stover for the second week in a row since we've been out there, he's making plays. And I also want to know, and this is probably something I'll keep an eye out on, a mandatory minicamp with the entire team is there. How are they going to utilize Brevin Jordan?
You mentioned that Jared Wayne caught a double coverage pass, which Davis Mills looking good on the day.
Well, he didn't look that good. Let's not give him too much credit.
Well, saw some plays made from Davis Mills, but overall, and this is from defensive coordinator Matt Burke, who had an opportunity to talk about who we believe can be an all-pro cornerback. Derek Stingley said Stingley has been in the building working out since basically February. Mentioned the healthy off-season leading to a hopeful, healthy season. Derek Stingley out there making plays for the Houston Texans defense. And Matt Burke, again, just excited to have a player of his caliber on the side of the ball that he coaches. So once we get into mandatories and once we get into training camp, the pads, I'm not worried about the offensive line right now. I actually hate judging offensive linemen with T-shirts on, but once we get into the pads, we may see a very physical training camp this year.
You saw one last year.
We did see one last year, and then we saw a lot of guys get hurt last year. But I think it'll be physical because of the nature of the competitiveness that these players will bring. We may see some chippiness this offseason. You got some guys on both sides of the ball, like Cody mentioned, the bottom half of the tight end, the bottom half of the wide receiver groups. You got some guys fighting for spots, and you can make a case for a player like Jared Wayne. Can he bring more to the table as a receiver than maybe a Robert Woods, maybe a Robert Woods or Noah Brown, excuse me. I will say I'm interested because Steven Sims had a good day. I'm interested to see who will be that 6th wide receiver and if Houston will look at that position to be their returner or not moving forward.
Nico, speaking from a player perspective, how important is it just to have that consistency? Because even though you've been in the league for 4 years, this is the first time you're coming back with same head coach, same offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I feel like, man, it's important to have, the same consistency. You don't want to have any drop-offs. I feel like just having the same coach, the same offense, same, unit from last year, man, just adding another year to it, man, it builds the feel, builds the energy, builds the confidence, and all around the building, you know. And I feel like just having this second year, you know, in offense, man, it's going to be great for everybody to make plays, you know, have fun, man, put some points on the scoreboard, you know, just reach out and go, just get us that Super Bowl, man. So I feel like that's the mission.
That was Nico Collins talking about consistency. As you guys know, the importance of consistency is something that I've been talking about throughout this whole entire offseason. And John, I find it very fitting with us talking about, you know, players that doesn't get that much light. In terms of like a Steven Sims, in terms of a Jerry Wayne, you know, I find it funny that we're talking about them, you know, developing that competitive nature so far in OTAs and how good they're looking. And of course, one of the best things that is working in their favor is the fact that they finally have consistency, because this is the second year for a lot of these guys that they're coming back to the same system. They already know what Coach D'Amico Ryans is going to be looking for. They already know what Bobby Slowick is going to be looking for. They already know what Matt Burke is going to be looking for. And, you know, I really just wanted to ask Nico that, because Nico is one of the few guys who have seen the whole entire rebuild to its fullest. And he's been in the league for 4 years. And this is the first time that he's coming back to the same head coach and same offensive coordinator. Do not be surprised if Nico Collins come close or in some ways surpassing the career year that he had in 2023.
Let's dive into these YouTube comments. So on the episode of the could the Houston Texans make more changes? Aaron Baker 4829 says Xavier gonna be like Ed Reed in Houston. Texans fans and Ed Reed has been having beef for a very long time, but I believe that was to your comment of maybe Houston should look at Xavier Howard once they, you know, start cutting guys and getting to training camp and figuring out how they can improve their roster. I kind of somewhat agree a little bit. I don't think he's not going to be as bad as Ed Reed was in Houston, but I also think the relationship between the Houston Texans and Ed Reed just wasn't the best, which led to him going out the way he did, or vice versa, pushing him out the building. I don't think it's going to be Ed Reed bad, but I do wonder how much Xavier has left in the tank. And that's no disrespect to him. He's had a great career, very successful career. At one point, the highest paid corner in the league. But you do kind of start looking at some of the guys and wondering if it's a name or do they still have it in the tank.
I think he definitely still has something in the tank. And it's like I mentioned on yesterday. Like I think if the Houston Texans were to sign Xavier, he's not going to have that same responsibility. And they're going to put him in like a minimized role that would keep him fresh. Because if we're being honest, the number one knock against him over these last 2-3 seasons has been his health. So if you put him in a minimized role, keep him fresh. That way, when you get towards the end of the season, when you have that gauntlet schedule that we all talking about, going up against Kansas City, Baltimore, Miami, and not only that, using his experience and his play in the playoffs, when you're going up against some of the league's best, if not the best quarterback, when you're trying to get to that end goal, like you just heard Nico Collins say, I think that could be Xavier Howard's best attribute to this team.
So, Cody, you kind of got hurt the other day on these comments when we talked about Houston Texans extending star receiver Nico Collins. At some point during that show, I mentioned the other top receiving cores we've seen from quarterbacks that were either on rookie deals or just got into a deal, but just how explosive this Houston Texans offense could look with a Diggs, Nico, and Tank Dell. During that episode, I mentioned the Philadelphia Eagles, and I was like, you got A.J. Brown, you had Devontae Adams, you had Goddard. Look what their big three did with their quarterback. And I mentioned that who would you rather have, CJ or Jalen Hurts? So, Cody, get ready. Reginald Rager, 2143. I'm taking CJ over Hurts all day. Come on, Cody, be for real. You took too long answering, bro. That's one. The other one is you're gonna love this. Where is it? Just had it. The other one is CJ is way better than Hurts. How is this even a question? This is from Joshua. This is from Joshua Hodge, 8804. I don't know that guy. Tom Walker. CJ over Hurts. Stop the cap, Cody. Listen, the city has spoken. We believe that CJ is a top 5 quarterback. I don't. Do you think CJ can be the 1A quarterback in the NFL? Mind you, that spot comes with going against Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen. Right? Those are the 3 that are not Mahomes that you gotta say you gotta be better than. And only one of those guys have made it to a Super Bowl, which is Joe Burrow. I think CJ's competition would be Joe Burrow. But he's beat Joe Burrow last year. They got to beat the Baltimore Ravens, so Lamar Jackson is still in that. You got to beat the Bills. You'll have a chance to do that this year on both of those teams. But skill-wise, do you think he could be in that 1A group of quarterbacks? Well, you're not Mahomes, but you're right under him.
I think CJ definitely has the potential to be the best quarterback in the league. And I'm not saying that because of the conversation we had. But here's my thing, John, and this is why it took me so long to answer. I'm basing it off of, 1, we have a greater sample size of Jalen Hurts, and 2, and most importantly, has Jalen Hurts been an MVP candidate over the last 2-3 seasons? Yes, he has.
He has.
And even though we are all expecting CJ Stroud to be a good quarterback in this league, once again, I think he has the potential to be next in line to have that title of best quarterback in the league. We still just have a small sample size. And 3, most importantly, how are we viewing this? Are we basing it off of athleticism? Who's the most athletic quarterback? Because if that's the case, you got to go with Jalen Hurts. If you're just looking at pure skill set of throwing the ball and going through your reads and progression, you're going to go with CJ. Was CJ Stroud the better rookie quarterback than Jalen Hurts? Yes. But I was just going off of, 1, looking at what Jalen Hurts has become over the last 3 years. That's why it took me so long to answer.
The one that I thought was interesting, I would not be surprised if we have 3 1,000-yard receivers this season. And this is from Jaqual78. CJ has already done it at Ohio State. CJ has only had 2 max 1,000-yard receiver seasons in one season. But I do think Houston can make history by adding themselves to the short list of teams to have 3 1,000-yard receivers on their team this year.
Which brings me back to the way I opened up this show. This offense will definitely be the best offense in the league by the end of next season.
Joe Mixon does a lot for that offense. Dalton Schultz does a lot for that offense. I think we'll see the competition between Kay Stover and Brevin Jordan. Those 2 guys will be able to do a lot of the small things for the offense. A healthy Titus Howard at right tackle. A healthy Larry Tunsil at left tackle. Figuring out a healthy Kenyon Green at left guard. You're going to see this offense. It's going to be like Pimp My Ride, man. The last couple of seasons. No, for real. Like the last couple of seasons, ugly offense barely doing anything. You can barely get it from point A to B. You come in last year, you get an upgrade, but maybe Bobby Slork isn't done yet. Maybe they got a lot left that they could do with Stefon Diggs unlocking this offense. Joe Mixon unlocking this offense. They could potentially be the best offense in the NFL. They have to go up against Green Bay, Detroit, Kansas City, San Francisco, and I think I'm going to put the Ravens in there as well. Dallas is a
I'm not putting Dallas in there. I'm not putting Dallas in there. No. We're not putting Dallas in there.
Dallas will be there as one of the top.
They are always pretenders like they've been for almost 30 years.
I mean, they don't win Super Bowls.
I'd rather put Jacksonville over Dallas at this point.
All right. Thank you guys for watching today's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and comment on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12.
And as always, I'm your host, Cody M. Davis. Please remember to follow me on Twitter at Cody Davis_24. Once again, it's Cody COTYDAVIS_24. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen.
Until next Tuesday.